I never thought I'd be the guy standing on an auction block, watching a horde of bargain hunters paw through my ex-neighbor's life like it was Black Friday at a flea market. But there I was, hammer in hand, selling off every last shred of that entitled bitch's secrets. It started with a single key. Her key slipped into my lock without a whisper of permission, and ended with her entire world scattered across folding tables under the Texas sun, bidders laughing as they uncovered panties tangled in power tools. Call me petty, call me vengeful, but when Karen Whitaker decided my private ranch storage was her personal HO8 dumping ground, she didn't just cross a line. She bulldozed it and planted her flag. You know the type. Karen, with her bleach bob haircut that screamed, "I volunteer the PDA, but secretly hate all the kids," her yoga pants perpetually stretched over a frame that hadn't seen a real squat since Zumba class went virtual in 2020. She was the self-appointed queen of Willow Creek Estates, our gated McMansion suburb outside Austin, where everyone drove identical white SUVs and fought over lawn lengths like it was the goddamn UN. I bought my plot 5 years back, a modest 5-acre spread with a barn that doubled as storage for my ranch gear, because I needed space from the city grind, not to play footsie with fascism in cul-de-sac form. But Karen? She saw rules as suggestions for peasants and her whims as bylaws. It was a Thursday in June, the kind of sticky hot day where the air smells like barbecue and regret, when I came home from a long-haul trucking shift to find my barn door ajar. Not cracked. Ajar like it had been hosting a block party. Tools scattered, my old Harley parts shoved into corners, and worst of all, stacks of cardboard boxes labeled in Sharpie with shit like HOA election ballots, confidential, and neighborhood watch evidence files. I froze, heart pounding like I'd walked in on my own funeral. Who the hell had the balls? Then I saw the note taped to a riding mower that wasn't mine. Thanks for the storage space, Jake. Community first. Kavi. Karen Whitaker. That smug cunt had picked my lock, my actual deadbolt, not some metaphorical bullshit, and turned my sanctuary into her junkyard. I ripped the note down, crumpling it in my fist until the paper bit into my palm. Betrayal hit like a gut punch from an old army buddy. Sharp, personal, the kind that leaves you wheezing. We'd never been friends, but we'd nodded at barbecues, shared small talk about the rising property taxes. Hell, I'd even voted for her in that HOA election because she promised fair enforcement. Fair my ass. This was theft, plain and simple, wrapped in community spirit like a turd in a bow. I stormed out, gravel crunching under my boots, and marched the quarter-mile to her McMansion, the one with the flagpole flying both the stars and stripes, and some knockoff "Don't Tread on Me" banner she'd probably bought on QVC. She answered the door in her signature athleisure, iced tea in hand, looking every bit the soccer mom from hell. "Jake, what a surprise. Come for the potluck planning." Her smile was all teeth, no warmth, like a shark who just spotted chum. I thrust the note at her. "What the fuck is this, Karen? You broken my barn?" Her eyes widened for a split second, busted, then narrowed into that patented Karen squint. "Oh, honey, it's not breaking in if it's for the greater good. The HOA storage unit is full, and yours was just sitting there. I figure neighbors help neighbors. It's in the covenants, Article 7, communal resources." I laughed, a bark that echoed off her pristine siding. "Communal? That's my private property, Karen. Posted and locked. You want to talk covenants? How about the one against trespassing?" She sipped her tea, unfazed, like I'd accused her of jaywalking. "Trespassing? Dramatic much? Look, Willow Creek thrives on trust. If everyone's so uptight about a few boxes." She trailed off, waving me inside like I was the uninvited guest. Against my better judgment, I stepped over the threshold, the cool AC hitting me like a slap. Her living room was a shrine to suburbia. Framed photos of her with the mayor at some ribbon cutting, shelves of self-help books like Boundaries for Winners, irony much, and a massive sectional where she perched like a throne. We argued for an hour, me yelling about privacy rights, her countering with sob stories about the community's needs. She pulled up the HOA docs on her iPad, highlighting clauses twisted like pretzels to justify her bullshit. See? Shared facilities in emergencies. Emergency? Her election fraud files were hardly code red. By the end, she was on the phone with the board, live streaming our discussion to the group chat, painting me as the grumpy loner sabotaging unity. Jake here's got a big heart, folks, but he's new to the neighborly way. New? I'd lived here longer than her spray tan lasted. I left fuming, slamming my truck door so hard the mirror rattled loose. That night, nursing a six-pack on my porch, cicadas screaming like they knew my pain, I scrolled Reddit's r/malicious compliance. Stories of petty revenges, HOA horrors, fuel for the fire. By dawn, I'd hatched a plan so devious it made me grin like the devil himself. If Karen wanted communal, I'd give her communal. But first, inventory. I spent the weekend cataloging her crap. Not just ballots, but personal shit. Love letters from her ex, juicy, involving a pool boy. Tax returns showing she'd shorted the association dues for years. Even a diary entry ranting about banging the vice president while his wife was at chemo. Blackmail gold, but I wasn't that low. Not yet. Monday, I called a local auction house. Rusty relics, run by a grizzled vet named Hank, who hated HOAs more than traffic. Son, if it's revenge, make it biblical. We scheduled for Saturday, flyers blasted across town. Mystery ranch auction. Tools, treasures, and HOA surprises. Bargains galore. I didn't name names, but whispers spread like wildfire in dry grass. By Friday, Karen was blowing on my phone. This is harassment. I'll sue. I texted back. See you at the gate, neighbor. Bring cash. The morning of the auction dawned clear and brutal, 102 degrees, the kind of heat that turns asphalt to tar. My barn again, locks changed and cameras up, transformed into a swap meet spectacle. Folding tables groaned under the weight. Her boxes unpacked, items tagged with cheeky labels. I'd scrawled a marker. Lot 1, slightly used ballot box. Vote for chaos. Lot 47, Diary of Suburban Secrets. Bidding starts at $5. No refunds on drama. Hank manned the mic, his voice gravel over the PA. Folks, we've got everything from farm-fresh grudges to executive intrigue. Dig in. Crowds poured in. Neighbors I'd waved to at mailboxes, now elbowing for position. Out-of-towners sniffing deals. Even a news van from KVUE, tipped off anonymously, guilty. Karen arrived at noon, screeching up in her white Escalade, face pinched redder than a sunburn. She barreled through the gate, Karen and G at full volume. This is illegal. Stop this instant. I'm the president. Bidders parted like the Red Sea. Phones out, filming her meltdown. I leaned against a post, arms crossed, sipping a lukewarm shiner. Morning, Madam President. Care to bid on your own underwear? Lot 23, Lacey, with a side of hypocrisy. She lunged for a table, snatching a stack of photos. Her with the pool boy, time-stamped last summer. You bastard. These are private. Hank boomed. Hands off the merch, lady. That's assault on commerce. Laughter rippled through the crowd, egging her on. She spun on me, eyes wild. You'll regret this, Jake. The board will bury you in fines. Community standards. I stepped forward, voice low but carrying. Standards? Like picking locks and lying about dues? Or screwing the VP while his wife's dying? Yeah, I read the diary. Page 142, real page-turner. Gasps. Whispers turned to murmurs, then outright jeers. A burly guy in a Spurs cap yelled, "Auctioneer asked next." Phones captured every flinch, every sputter. Karen's empire cracked right there, mortar crumbling under the weight of her own dirt. She bid frantically on lots to bury them. $200 for the diary, $500 for the letters, but I countered with reserves, forcing her hand higher. By lot 50, she was sweating through her blouse, mascara streaking like war paint in retreat. As the sun dipped, the last gavel fell on lot 89, HOA bylaws, annotated with lies. Sold for $75 to a cackling retiree. Karen slunk away, tail between her legs, vowing lawsuits in a voice that cracked like cheap porcelain. I pocketed $8,247, enough for new locks, a security system, and a steak dinner for Hank. But the real win? The group chat exploded. Resignations pouring in, KVUE running, HOA horror. storage scandal rocks suburb. Karen Whitaker, dethroned by her own debris. Yet as I locked up that night, the ranch quiet under stars like scattered diamonds, a hollow nod at me. Revenge tasted sweet, sure, barbecue ribs with extra sauce, but it left sauce stains. Neighbors who'd clapped, now averted eyes, whispers of that crazy Jake slithering like sidewinders. Was I the hero or the heel? Fuck it. In America, you fight for your fence line, or they fence you in. But the fallout? Oh, it didn't stop at the auction block. 2 weeks later, Karen's countersuit landed like a turd in my mailbox. $50,000 for defamation and emotional distress. Her lawyer's letter droning on about privacy violations and irreparable harm to her reputation. Reputation? The woman's rep was a house of cards built on sand and spite. One breeze from my barn, and poof, naked emperor strutting her stuff. I hired a pit bull attorney named Rita, a no-nonsense Latina from San Antonio who'd once sued her own HOA into oblivion over a koi pond dispute. "Me, Joe," she said over coffee at a Whataburger, "this Karen's bluffing. We've got timestamps, videos, her own damn fingerprints on the diary. But play dirty? We can tango." While Rita sharpened her claws, the neighborhood turned into a pressure cooker. Willow Creek's annual summer fete, think potato salad and passive aggression under string lights, loomed like a guillotine. Karen, ever the phoenix of pettiness, announced her comeback speech via mass email. "Join me in reclaiming our community's dignity against outsiders who sow discord." Outsiders. Me, who'd poured sweat into this soil, suddenly the bogeyman. I debated skipping, holing up with Netflix and a cooler of beer, but Spite's a stubborn bitch. Nah, I'd show boots polished, smile sharp as barbed wire. The park buzzed that Saturday. Kids on bounce houses, grills smoking brisket that made my mouth water despite the bile rising. I arrived fashionably late, nursing a plastic cup of lukewarm punch, scanning for landmines. There she was on a makeshift stage by the gazebo, flanked by her loyalists, 2 bleached blondes and a balding yes-man clutching a clipboard like a shield. Karen in a sundress that screamed victim chic, microphone in hand. "Friends, we've faced trials, betrayals that test our bonds. But Willow Creek stands strong. Together, we'll enforce the rules that keep us safe, prosperous, united." Applause, polite but thin, like it was rationed. Then eyes flicked to me, leaning against an oak, arms crossed. She locked on, smile faltering for a heartbeat before doubling down. "And to those who've misinterpreted our shared spirit, know this. Forgiveness is our creed, but accountability is our law." The crowd shifted, murmurs bubbling. An old-timer, Mr. Hargrove with his Vietnam ink peeking from sleeves, hollered, "What about your law-breaking, Karen?" Jake's auction cleared the air. Laughter, tentative at first, then rolling like thunder. Her face tightened, that squint returning. "Mr. Hargrove, bless your service, but gossip isn't governance." Jake's actions were a stunt, divisive, un-American. "Un American. In Texas?" That lit the fuse. A mom in Capri shot up. "Divisive? You used his barn like a landfill. My dues pay for storage, not your secrets." Another voice, a tech bro from the new builds. "And that VP thing? My wife's on the board. Resigned yesterday. Spill more, Karen." The stage wobbled as her minions fidgeted, the yes-man whispering furiously. I could have let it burn, but the hook in my gut pulled. Stepping forward, I raised my cup. "Evening, folks. Karen's right. Unity's key. That's why I cleared out her junk, so we could all see the trash we'd been hauling." Phones whipped out, the KVUE stringer in the back nodding eagerly. Karen jabbed a finger. "This is harassment. Security." But the security, a rent-a-cop munching a hot dog, shrugged. "Lady, it's a picnic." What followed was pandemonium, the good kind, shouts of "resign," mixing with cheers, a conga line of neighbors toasting with solo cups. Karen fled mid-rant, sundress flapping, her email empire in tatters. By night's end, petitions circulated, recall votes set for August. I slipped out early, the brisket heavy in my belly, a strange buzz in my veins. Victory? Or just the eye of the storm? Rita called Monday. Dismissed her suit. frivolous. But she's countersuing the board now, claiming conspiracy. Conspiracy. The word hung like smoke. Turns out, Karen been skimming dues for consulting fees to her pool boy lover, who'd parlayed it into a side hustle fencing HOA surplus. My auction? It had unearthed receipts, buried in a box labeled craft supplies. The board, spineless as ever, folded like cheap lawn chairs, voting to settle. $20K to make her go away. Go away to where? Rumors swirled. A cousin in Florida, or back to her ex in Dallas, tail between legs. Me? I got a thank you barbecue from the new interim prez, a quiet engineer named Tom who promised no more Karens. We grilled ribs under the same string lights, stories flowing like the beer. How she'd find a widow for unkempt grief flower beds, evicted a family over a Trump sign. Irony, given her Gadsden flag. Laughter healed some scars, but not all. My barn felt haunted still, echoes of her intrusion lingering in the dust. Then came the twist, the bitter pill that turned sweet revenge sour. A month in, anonymous letters started. Watch your back, traitor. Tires slashed, not once, but methodical every other week. I installed more cams, caught glimpses, a shadow in a hoodie, face obscured. Rita dug. Traces led to Karen's inner circle. The blondes turned bitter exiles. No proof, but the chills settled deep. One night, porch light flickering, I found a photo taped to my door. Me at the auction, crossed out in red, with paybacks a ranch scrawled below. Paranoia crept in, turning my sanctuary sour. I'd won the war, but lost the peace. Neighbors polite but distant. Whispers of overkill when I passed. Karen? Vanished, but her ghost lingered, a specter in every HOA meeting, every locked gate. I sold the plot that winter, cashing out for a cabin up in the hill country, where eagles don't give a damn about covenants. As the moving truck rumbled away, I glanced back at the barn, empty now, and whispered to the wind, "Your move, Karen." But deep down I knew the real auction was my soul, piecemeal to grudges that never quite settle. Winter in the hill country hit like a freight train. Chilly snaps that clawed through cabin walls, forcing me to hunker by the wood stove with a flask of bourbon and regrets thicker than the fog rolling off the Pedernales. I traded suburbia for solitude, telling myself it was freedom. No more busybody bylaws. Just me, my mutt buster, and acres of live oak whispering secrets older than Karen's grudges. But freedom's a liar. It echoes with what-ifs. And mine all rhymed with what if I just changed the locks quieter. The cabin was a steel, log beams, a wraparound porch perfect for stargazing, and a creek out back where Buster chased minnows like they owed him money. I threw myself into fixer-upper mode, patching roof leaks, building a chicken coop. Yeah, I went full homestead, even dating a barista named Lena from the coffee joint in Fredericksburg. She had that easy laugh, tattoos peeking from flannel cuffs, the kind of woman who quoted Dolly Parton unironically. "Jake, you're running from something," she'd say over campfire esmores, her fingers tracing my scars. Literal from Nam Tours, figurative from Willow Creek. I'd shrug, poke the fire. "Ain't running, darling. Just relocating my bullshit." But the letters followed, postmarked from Austin, typed sans serif taunts. "Ranches burn easy. Enjoy the quiet while it lasts." Buster'd growl at the mailbox, hackles up, and I'd crumple them for kindling, flames devouring the ink like they could erase the sender. Rita, bless her, pulled strings, ATF buddies sniffing for arson threats, but zilch. Paranoid much? Lena teased once, but her eyes held worry, the kind that curdles romance into caution. Spring thawed the ground and my defenses. News from the old hood trickled via Tom's texts. Willow Creek thriving. New rules etched in stone. No unauthorized access, period. Karen? A ghost story now. Sighted at a Waffle House in Round Rock. Waitressing in defeat, her bob grown out to mousy roots. Schadenfreude should have surged, but it fizzled. Pity, maybe, for the monster weed made of her. Or was it always there, festering under that step-forward smile? Then, the call came on a drizzly April afternoon. Rita's voice tight. "Jake, she's back." filed against the county, claiming the auction violated fair housing, some bullshit about retaliatory eviction for her protected status as HOA Prez. Protected status? The woman's wine had more lives than a cat in a yarn factory. I laughed it off, but Lena, eavesdropping from the kitchen, set down her mug hard. This ends now, Jake. Confront her, or it'll eat you alive. Confront. The word hung like humidity. Against better sense, I drove down. 3 hours of Willie on the radio, windows down, wind whipping doubts into shape. Austin sprawled welcoming, but Willow Creek's gates loomed like jaws. I parked at the old spot, barn sturdy under fresh paint, and hiked to her old address. For sale signs stabbed the lawn, as is motivated seller. A neighbor, Mrs. Ellis with her gossip vines, spotted me from her azaleas. Jake, heard you struck gold up north. Karen? Skipped town after the settlement. Said you'd ruined her. Crazy talk. Ruined. The echo mocked. I thanked her, turned to leave, but a shadow detached from the garage. Hoodie, slight build, familiar curve to the hips. One of the blondes, Trish or Trishlight. She froze, then bolted, but not before I snapped a pic. License plate blurry, but enough for Rita. Gotcha, she crowed later. Trish McGee, Karen's cousin. Petty theft record. Lives in her basement. We'll slap a restraining order. Relief washed, but it was brackish. Lena waited with stew and sympathy. Proud of you, cowboy. Facing dragons. We made love that night. Slow and sure. Her body a map away from malice. But Dawn brought the hammer. A package. No postmark. Buster's hackles at full mast. Inside, bubble wrap, cradling a single item. My auction gavel, splintered, wrapped in a note. You started it. We finish. Panic spiked, pure adrenaline. I barricaded, called Rita, even the sheriff, big guy named Rawls who chuckled. City folk drama. Lock your doors. But Lena saw the fracture. This isn't live, Jake. It's siege. She left a week later, note on the counter. Love you, but can't live haunted. Fix it, or join me in the light. Alone again, the cabin closed in, walls whispering accusations. Was I the villain? Auctioning her secrets hadn't freed me. It had chained us, a karmic knot tightening with each threat. I drove to Round Rock that weekend, Waffle House, neon, buzzing like a migraine. There she was, Karen, aproned, flipping hash browns, lines etching her face deeper than before. No bob, just a ponytail limp as her spirit. Our eyes met over the counter. Hers widened, fork clattering. Jake. Not a question, a curse. I slid onto a stool, ordered coffee black. Trish says hi. Her hands trembled pouring. You win, okay? I lost the house, the job, everything. Happy. Bitterness dripped, but under it cracks. Vulnerability I'd never clocked. Wasn't about winning, Karen. It was about boundaries. You crossed mine. I redrew the map. She leaned in, voice a hiss. Boundaries? You paraded my life like trash TV. My marriage gone. Kids won't speak to me. All because of your map. Tears welled, smudging eyeliner. For a heartbeat, pity surged. Two fools in a suburb circus, clawing for control. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it. But you started the lockpick. She wiped her face, steel returning. Get out. And stay gone. I left at 20, walked into rain that soaked to bone. Driving back. Lightning cracking skies, clarity hit. Revenge is a boomerang, curved to concuss. Karen's end was bitter, sure. Syrup turned to vinegar, but mine? A mirror, reflecting the same hollow eyes. Back at the cabin, I burned the gavel, ashes scattering on the creek. Buster nosed my hand, tail thumping forgiveness. No more auctions, no more ghosts. I'd rebuild, not walls but bridges, starting with a call to Lena, come home. Or let me come to you. Her laugh, tinny over the line, about time, cowboy. Summer scorched the hill country again, but this time the heat felt like absolution, dry, demanding, stripping illusions bare. Lena returned in July, U-Haul groaning with her pottery wheel and vinyl collection, turning the cabin into a home that hummed with life. Records spinning Patsy Cline at dawn, clay-splattered counters from her latest mugs. We danced around the threats, unspoken. Me boarding windows for storms. Her planting wildflowers to root us here. Buster approved, sprawled at her feet like a furry chaperone. This, she said one evening, feet in my lap on the porch swing, is the real revenge. Living well, no Karens invited. But ghost don't ghost easy. August brought the recall vote results. Tom elected permanent. Bylaws overhauled with teeth. Mandatory audits, no more communal whims. Tom's email crowed. Your auction was a spark, Jake. Oh, you ribs eternal. I smiled, firing back a thumbs up, but the glow dimmed when Rita forwarded the latest. Karen's appeal, pro-SE now, rambling manifestos to the court about suburban tyranny and one man's vendetta. Pages of vitriol, my name inked like venom. Jake the Destroyer, H.O. a martyr maker. I read it by firelight, Lena asleep beside me, her breath steady as the tick of the mantel clock. Words blurred, accusations of stalking, ironic, claims I'd planted the diary, gaslight much, but buried in legalese, a plea. This community devoured its own, starting with me. Devoured. For the first time, I saw her not as monster, but mirror, entitled, yes, but cracked by the same pressures we'd all swallowed. Rising costs, faceless boards, the American dream curdled to nightmare. September, harvest moon fat as a tick. I drove south again, not to Round Rock, but deeper to a trailer park on the outskirts where Rita's PI pinned her. No Waffle House glamour, just sagging awnings, kids on bikes dodging potholes. Karen's unit. Number 14, curtains drawn, a beware of dog sign ironic sans pup. I knocked, heart hammering like a bass drum at a hoedown. Silence. Then the chain rattled, door cracking to reveal her. Thinner, ponytail frayed, eyes hollowed by fluorescent regret. Jake. Flat. No fire. I held up a manila envelope. Not here to fight. This, auction proceeds minus costs. For you. 8 grand. What was left after lawyers and locks. Her laugh, brittle as autumn leaves. Charity from the king of comeuppance? Pass. But her fingers twitched, betraying want. I sat on the stoop. Call it restitution. Or karma. Your pick. She stepped out, barefoot on cracked concrete, arms folding guard. Why? You got your pound. Hell, my whole flank. Moonlight silvered her face, etching lines of a life unraveled. No McMansion armor, just a woman who'd armored wrong. Because winning alone tastes like ash, I said. You pushed. I shoved. We're even. Or, as even as this shit gets. We talked then, porch light buzzing like a confessor, words spilling unvarnished. Her confessions tumbled. The skimming born of desperation. Hubby's gambling debts. Kids' college tuitions ballooning like bad investments. The barn raid? Panic, not plot. A Hail Mary to hide the ledgers. I thought I was saving us, she whispered, voice cracking. Turn out I was just sinking faster. My turn. The army ghost that made me crave control. The divorce that left me barn-bound, solitary. Your key in my lock? Felt like invasion squared. No hugs, no Hallmark thaw, just 2 survivors swapping war stories. The envelope a truce flag between us. As I rose, she clutched my sleeve. The threats, Trish. She's unhinged. Told her to stop, but family's blood, you know. Blood. The word waited. I nodded, drove away with the moon in my rear view, lighter somehow, like I'd auctioned off my own grudges. Back home, Lena stirred from sleep. Verdict. I slid beside her, envelope empty in my mind. Pardon granted. She kissed my temple. Good man. Fall painted the hills gold, chickens clucking contentment, and the letters ceased. Trish pinched for vandalism. Karen's testimony the nail. Willow Creek faded to postcard memory. Tom's update sparse but warm. Winter's Eve, snow dusting the creek rare as hen's teeth. We hosted a solstice fire. Neighbors from the valley, hippie welders, ranch hands with callous truths. No gates, no gavels. Stories circled the flames. Lost loves, petty feuds forgiven. I raised a toast. To boundaries, not walls, but lines we draw together. Laughter, genuine, wrapped the night. Karen? Last I heard, she moved to New Mexico, managing a co-op where community meant consensus, not conquest. Bitter end? Nah, bittersweet like good bourbon burning clean. Me? The ranch storage echoes empty, but my heart's full. Lena's hand in mine, Buster snoring, stars winking approval. In America, we build, we break, we mend. And sometimes the sweetest revenge is letting go.